Writing a book, sometimes you think it's just you that has to do it. But there is a little side angle that you can go to if you want the credibility, but you just don't want to write it yourself. And so that's why I've invited Jacques de Villiers, the author of What If Hollywood Doesn't Call? A Fractured Monk's Guide to Enlightenment. This is not the only book that Jacques has written. Jacques, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And tell me how many books you've actually written.
Well, to date, probably 36, but not for myself. Mm-hmm. That's the one book I wrote for myself, and then I've ghostwritten 35 books.
What is ghostwriting, and how can an author prepare for it?
Okay, so ghostwriting is when somebody else writes your book. So the kind of ghostwriting I do is normally autobiographies or memoirs, and so sort of legacy writing. People want to leave a legacy for their grandkids, for their children. Generally, my ghostwriting isn't about the people making money, but just maybe to print 100 books for the family. But you'll see lots of famous people's books are probably ghostwritten, and the ghostwriter's name doesn't go on the book at all, so it's a transactional thing. But you would hire somebody that has obviously good writing skills and that can put a concept together.
So when you're busy doing ghostwriting, sometimes authors think that you're a little bit of a magician, that you're just going to pull the story out. But you actually need to do a lot of interaction with the author. You've got to, or the person who's wanting you to write the book for them, and you've got to ask them certain kinds of questions. What kind of process is that?
They spend as much time with me as they would writing the book. So normally what we try and do is get a plan. So I like to plan out the whole content, and then we write to each piece of content. But there's a lot of research in it, and it's a lot of work from both the author and the person that the book is being written for. So it is a lot of work. There's no magic formula. The person has to get involved with the author. Also, we're trying to get their voice. There's a lot of interviewing, because often the author, the ghostwriters, have their own perceptions and their own voice. And the skill of it is to get the voice of the person you're writing for, so that it sounds like it's their book.
Another question that I have is like, what are the things that go wrong? So sometimes people send you the material, but they've got a certain perception on how it's going to work. And I often hear authors say, I've employed this ghostwriter, but it doesn't seem like there's any progress. Why does that happen?
Often the person that's hired the ghostwriter doesn't actually really have an idea of what they want. So they want the author to come up with the idea, and then the author comes up with the idea, and then it's not quite what they want. Then that's where the whole thing goes sideways. So I've had a couple of those instances. So the trick is to probably spend a month just planning the whole thing and getting both parties aligned, so that the thing can work well. But generally, as you said earlier, they think we're magicians, but it is the other person's book, and you want it to sound like them. So they really have to be involved. And especially if it's an autobiography or a memoir, people have so many stories, and we have to corral it into 60,000 words or 40,000 words. So you also have to pick and choose which stories you want to put into it. And a lot of people are quite precious about their stories, so they want all of them in their whole life. But we have to prioritize which stories go in, and that's the only way it can work.
What is the difference between a memoir and a biography?
So a memoir is like a short period in your life, 10 years, 3 years. What is that book? Eat, Love, Pray. Eat, Love, Pray. In India for a couple of years. So it could be a walk or a hike that you did, or a period where you were in a country. So that's a memoir. It's a short period. And then an autobiography is about your whole life, so your family, and there's a progression of time till whatever point you're at.
So memoirs actually can do incredibly well, but what is the makings of a good memoir?
The makings of a good memoir, there has to be some kind of story. So every story kind of works on the hero's journey. There has to be some challenges, why you went to wherever you went to, or what you did. And then you're trying to get some lessons as well. So the life lessons that you've learned in this experience, which according to the hero's journey, is what they call the elixir, which you share with your tribe. So you're trying to leave some kind of message. So the kind of memoirs I do, the people are trying to leave a message for their children and their grandchildren, a legacy of, because none of us want to go to our grave without leaving some kind of legacy, even if it's just moving the dial a little bit. That's kind of the purpose of why we're here.
Another question is that, how do you know whether you should actually be writing the book yourself or you should be using a ghostwriter?
That's a good question. So firstly, you probably got the stories, and sometimes you don't actually need a ghostwriter. What you need is a good editor. So if you can put the stories down, a good editor can panel beat it and corral it into something that is readable. So most people that like speaking have a fear of writing. They don't think they're really good writers. But I think if they just apply their minds, and it's the time, as you know, Kim, takes a lot of discipline to put your backside on the chair and actually write a book. I mean, you've done numerous books, and it is hard work. So a lot of them don't want to do the hard work. They want the writer to do it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about hard work, why this book?
So, The Fractured Monk was a book, it was an idea. I went on a spiritual journey for a while, and then I was looking for a place to write the book. I was looking at a place in the Karoo, and then a man by the name of Esco Skatem, I said I should come to his spiritual retreat, which is in Walker Fruit Farms, and I wrote the book there. Why this book? Well, I suppose, why do we have a spiritual experience? Why? I had a bit of a tragedy that forced me to look at myself, and I spent almost 2 years at the retreat experiencing things, and the book is 117 vignettes of my life experiences with a spiritual bent on it. You know. So that was why I wrote it. Would I write this book again? Because I'm in the sales game and I'm in the speaking game. It's totally off brand with where I want to go. So if you are going to write a book, be smart about it and write a book that's on brand, that pushes your agenda. So this book I can never really market in terms of what I sell, but it was a brilliant project, and it's still my life work. A lot of the lessons there I still use, and I'm always evolving. And I think I've probably got another 2 or 3 of those exact books. That was written in 2019. I've probably written another 300 articles based on spirituality, which I'm probably going to put into another book.
So the question is actually, is it really off point? Because human beings are not stuck in one identity. We evolve over time. And so if you were to bring out another one of these based on who you are now, then that would show an evolution. I always say that a series is probably one of the best things you can do for your brand, because when people like your work, they're more tempted to want to read the next one and the next one, and there are actually stats involved in that. So interestingly enough, it goes down to the second book, and then it goes up for the third book, and then it will drop off again on the fourth book. But it also means that you're marketing the first book, and then the first book is marketing the second and third book. So if someone was doing a memoir and they did little segments of lessons from different aspects of their life, that would be a series.
No, absolutely, and that's clever, because you write 6 books and you sell the box set there. So if you're in it for the financial game, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I can do The Fractured Monk for salespeople, but almost kind of a chicken soup for the soul vibe. You just build on that, because from my philosophy is that everything is spiritual and the rest falls in place. Everything else is a sideshow to what you want to do in life spiritually. So, sales is just a piece, marketing is just a piece, being a leader is just a piece of this puzzle for our journey to become a total human, ultimately. So that is absolutely right, and I think I'm going to take you up on that.
Watch this space for the next book. Jacques, when you're budgeting, besides working with a ghostwriter, what other things do you need to budget for?
So firstly, there's the writing of the book, which can cost you anywhere, it depends, from 50,000 to $500,000, depends on who's writing it, how much research there is. Often there's travel, you have to go to places. Now with Zoom, and obviously we can do that more often. I had a case where I had to go into a town every month because the person I was writing for didn't use any technology, so I actually had to sit and interview him. He was a 90-year-old man, and I did interview him. It was a fascinating project, but it took a lot of time. So you've got to factor in costs like transport, all of that kind of stuff. So the budget can go really, really high. But your other costs are, if you're going to print a book, I mean, you've got to have a typesetter, you've got to have a cover designer, the printing costs, and if you're going to launch the book, there's normally a bit of a cocktail party, a book launch, so there's a cost to that. So a dead cost of a book is probably just to print and that, and if you're going to use an editor and a proofreader, which I would suggest, because the ghostwriter is too involved in the book to see the mistakes. We all make mistakes. And you as a writer know it's only your third draft that starts looking half decent. Your first draft, you think you're drawing with a crayon, it doesn't look that good. And I also edit books, and when I get the edited books, I always ask, can you give me your third version? But no one gives me the third version. They always give me the first version. But I mean, I think ballpark, in terms of rands, you're probably looking not under 60,000 to 100,000 rand just to produce the book. That's including the editor, the typesetter, etc., etc. So yeah, and then there's obviously the ghostwriter's costs, which is a substantial amount of money too. So it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to have funds to do it.
And also what people don't understand is the immense amount of time that the ghostwriter is using to write that book, and at that time you can't take on any other work because you're fully focused on that project. So when we look at it from that perspective, you can see why a ghostwriter charges what they do.
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, some of the ghostwriters I'm talking about, they're easy $250 a book, so they maybe do 4 books a year. And sometimes in South Africa, we can't really afford the American rate. So I prefer to write for overseas people because the pound, dollar, rand exchange rate makes it cheap for them. But for the average South African to put 250,000 rand towards a book, that's a lot of money. So I'll share a story. I did a friends and family rate, as I sometimes do, the other day, and I worked out how much it cost me in time. I earned less than a McDonald's worker an hour. So you have to be really strict on your finances and on the hourly rate. But that's why ghostwriters charge a fortune. I mean, I can tell you these ghostwriters that write for famous people are easily charging over the millions to write the book.
And if you don't have the million, then you get stuck and you come into my program where I teach you how to write the book.
Absolutely, right. And that's what I would suggest. I mean, your voice is still the most important, and a ghostwriter can never really capture it, or can capture it a bit, but it's not quite what you want. So, you know, I would always recommend, if you can, write your own book, and then go to Kim, who's a genius at book marketing and book development, and that's how you get it out. But I think there will still be a place for ghostwriters, and maybe now's a good time to touch on AI. I've written some stuff with AI, which if I had to look at it in the cold light of day, I'm going, it's better than I could have produced. Maybe I can add some nuance to it and the personality, but I think that's going to be the way of the world. And I think, I know that copywriters, ghostwriters, all these people often say AI can be a help, but I do suspect that the AI will eventually take that role. You can never put that human element in, but a lot of people can just go to AI and write a half-decent book, and if they humanize it, which AI can also do, speak in your brand voice, could be challenging for writers in the future.
I think it could be challenging, but also your human experiences, AI can't replicate that.
Absolutely.
So if you are working with AI, you would need to put in the emotional side for it. But what I find when I'm working with authors, because when I'm book coaching, as we're speaking, the story evolves because I get a connection with the person and I kind of sense something is going in a certain way, which I suspect you also get as a ghostwriter. It's just like a little thought that sparks or a question that you ask. And that's not something that can be replicated with AI because we don't have that human spiritual interaction with each other that makes the story evolve.
No, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I don't think AI could ever fully, but AI can give you a nice foundation and can spark ideas that you never had.
Yes.
And take it from there. But yeah, there's always going to have to be a nuanced approach if you want it to be humanized.
Absolutely. Well, Jacques, thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to seeing your next book, which will also feature on the show. So stay tuned for more information about book writing, the world of books, and the world of authors.